We always hear about hurricane season, right? But Hurricane Helene, um, this one was different.
Yeah, this wasn't just some palm trees swaying in the wind.
Right. It was like something out of a movie. The destruction was unbelievable.
It really was. Just unbelievable. The satellite imagery, I mean, wow. It doesn't even look real. You see entire towns gone, underwater, the coastlines redrawn. I mean, it really makes you realize, the power of nature. I mean, we think we're so in control, but then...
You see something like this and it's just like, whoa.
Exactly.
You've been digging into all the first-hand accounts. What's got you thinking?
Well, one thing that's really come through is this feeling of just being totally overwhelmed. People just using whatever they could to survive. Like, there was this one guy in Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. He had to use a kayak to get around his house.
That's the one. Can you imagine, like, grabbing a life vest and a paddle just to see what's going on in your own kitchen?
It's like that moment right before you drop something in the glass of water, everything's calm, and then suddenly it's...
Total chaos.
Yeah. Except this time, the glass of water is like the entire southeast.
And he was one of the lucky ones. Thankfully, they were able to rescue him.
I can't even imagine being stuck like that.
It just shows you how quickly things can go from bad to worse during a hurricane.
Especially with the storm surge, you add that into the mix, and it's just...
It's a whole other level of danger. And, it's easy to focus on those incredible rescues, the dramatic footage.
Oh, for sure. Those videos and pictures are everywhere.
But it's important to remember what this is really about, People's lives being totally upended, the human cost.
Yeah, it's easy to forget about that when you're just seeing these crazy images.
We're talking 45 confirmed deaths so far, across 5 states.
45 lives lost. It's awful.
It really is. And they weren't just numbers. They were people who drowned or got into car accidents trying to get out, even falling trees.
You don't think about something like a tree falling being that dangerous, but...
During a hurricane, absolutely. But, alongside all the loss, we are seeing these incredible stories of,
Of what?
resilience.
Yeah.
Like, there was this dog and their owner in Atlanta. They were clinging to each other after being swept away by the water.
Oh, gosh, it's terrifying.
It is, but luckily first responders were able to get to them.
Wow, they're so lucky to be alive. And it makes you think it's not just people who are vulnerable during these storms, but animals, too.
Right. Everyone and everything is at risk.
And how do you even prepare for something like that? Especially in a city like Atlanta. But they don't exactly have hurricanes every other week.
It's true. You don't think of Atlanta as a hurricane city, do you?
Not at all. And if Tampa Bay, a place that's used to hurricanes, was caught off guard like that.
Exactly. You have to wonder, what chance did Atlanta have?
Right. You just wouldn't think Atlanta would have to worry about that.
Yeah, and it really shows you that these big cities...
They're not invincible, are they?
No, not at all. Helene proved that even with all that concrete and steel, nature can still find a way in and cause some serious damage.
It's almost ironic, right? All those trees, all that nature right in the city, that's part of what makes Atlanta so beautiful.
Exactly. But with Helene, all those beautiful trees, they became a liability, falling on power lines, blocking roads, just adding to the chaos.
So you've got these streets that are flooded, right? They're like rivers. And then on top of that, you've got trees down everywhere.
Yeah, it's like something out of a nightmare. And then
the power goes out.
Oh, yeah, the power outages were a nightmare for people. I read this one account from a resident. They said it was like navigating a maze in the dark.
Oh, God, a maze in the dark, and you just know something bad is around every corner.
Right. And the fear of like a live wire or another tree coming down.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was a really scary situation for a lot of people. And then you add on top of that just the sheer scale of it all.
The number of people without power was just crazy, right?
Something like 4 million people without power at its peak.
4 million. That's just mind-blowing.
It's hard to even wrap your head around, think about trying to coordinate getting power back on for that many people while you're dealing with all the debris and damage.
Right. Like, where do you even begin?
Exactly. And it wasn't just the power grid. Airports were shut down all over.
Right, and I remember seeing something about that. Everything was just at a standstill.
Yep. And it's not just the immediate impact either. It's those ripple effects, Travel disruptions, supply chains disrupted. It takes days, sometimes weeks, to get things back to normal.
And we haven't even talked about those record-breaking storm surges. I mean, the Florida coast has seen its fair share of hurricanes, but...
Nothing like this.
Keaton Beach, Florida. I saw some pictures. It's heartbreaking. That whole community just devastated.
It's hard to even recognize it now, Homes are just gone. Businesses completely wiped out, just utter devastation.
We throw around the term natural disaster, but when you see the aftermath of something like Helene, It really is different.
Yeah, it's not just a storm, it's like this ripple effect, It touches everything.
I think it's easy to see pictures of, like, piles of debris and just think, oh, they can just clean that up and start over. But it's just not that simple, is it?
No, not at all. We're talking about people's livelihoods, their memories, their sense of security, everything just gone. And then on top of all that, try dealing with insurance
Ugh,
companies.
don't even get me started on insurance companies.
I mean, even without a hurricane, dealing with insurance is a nightmare.
Right. Add in a natural disaster and thousands of claims, and it's
A
just,
recipe for disaster, exactly.
and it's like you're dealing with all of this stress, this trauma, and then you have to fight with your insurance company just to get what you need to rebuild.
And we haven't even touched on the psychological impact, which can be huge.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of anxiety, the fear, that doesn't just go away overnight, does it?
Not at all. The trauma of an event like this, it can stay with you.
That makes you wonder, with extreme weather events becoming more and more common,
Yeah.
how do we even begin to prepare for a future where Helene isn't some freak occurrence, but just like a regular Tuesday?
I think that's the question we all need to be asking ourselves. And I think Helene really showed us that our old ways of thinking about disaster preparedness, they might not cut it anymore.
So what, we need a new playbook.
We need a whole new understanding of how to deal with these kinds of events, especially in places like Atlanta. They never had to worry about this stuff before, but now,
It's a whole new ballgame.
exactly. It's not just about stocking up on supplies. It's about rethinking infrastructure, how we respond as a community, even urban planning.
It's about admitting that we need to do better. It's a
Yeah.
scary thought.
But a necessary one.
Couldn't agree more. We can't control the weather, but we can control how prepared we are, how we respond when disaster does strike, and how we support each other in the aftermath.
Well said.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive, but we'll leave you with this. What are the lessons you've learned from Hurricane Helene? And how can you use those lessons to protect yourself, your family, your community? Thanks for listening.